Okay, so welcome to the demo video. We're going to kind of build on the stuff that we talked about in the previous video, that warm-up session about how to break down the complexity. But I thought the best way to do that was actually go through the entire cycle of first analyzing a painting and then doing a master's study of it, and show you why a master's study is so useful to help you understand how to see better and how to break down the core components that, when combined, create a really powerful piece of design. So that's the plan here. Just testing out, making sure everything's working okay, which it is, which is good. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring in to this our reference image. So there's my reference image. Keep this nice and small. So I've added the reference image into onto Moodle, so you can see it a little bit clearer. I'm actually going to make this quite small, and there is a reason for that. Simply at this stage, what I'm looking at is how this kind of image works and what its core components are. So this is a piece from the Mandalorian, the Disney Plus show, which, if you haven't seen it, is absolutely fantastic. And now what I'm going to do is start kind of taking a look at this and making some decisions about how it's kind of laid out and what its core components are. So I can see straight away that the horizon line is approximately 2/3. So I'm just going to kind of draw that in now. It's roughly there. So this is me just kind of breaking down these rough components. Then I'm making some decisions about roughly where I think kind of the vanishing point is, and where is our eye supposed to be drawn to. Now this is a really interesting one because I think it's got a slightly deceptive vanishing point. I'm going to do some quick sketching here just to kind of show you what I mean. This is just rough at the moment, but it's just sort of making sense of like where are the positive points and where are the negative points. Now the reason I'm doing it this way is because, like I said, I'm trying to understand roughly kind of where the horizon line is first off, but then also where the actual kind of vanishing point is for the shot. So I think just looking at the layout of the floor, that what we're seeing here is something that looks more like just off to the right hand side. So it looks like the vanishing point is almost dead center on the line, but that's not the case. And I'm just going to double check this now. So I'm just going to bring up on my second screen a larger version of this image just to really get my head around it. But I'm pretty sure that the horizon line is around the horizon line, and the vanishing point kind of puts itself about there. So roughly, that's where our vanishing point is. The reason I know that is because of the way that the lines, the cracks on the floor are moving. So they're kind of moving in this shape. So we're getting some shorter shapes here, and we're getting some longer shapes of those lines kind of coming in. So if we think about kind of like the floor like this, and we can see that in the way that these cracks kind of work. You can see these big kind of cracks in the floor like this. And that it was these lines for me that were the clue about where that vanishing point was, that it wasn't directly under our two main characters, which I'll sketch in a second. It was actually further over to the right hand side. So it's something kind of closer to that. Okay, so next up, we've got that kind of placed in. Like I said, I'm just looking now. These are more about, this is not light that we're working on, this is actual forms. So we've got this kind of cliff face here. We've got this dark shadow over this side, to make sure I'm actually on the right layer for this. Like that. And then behind it, we've got some stuff. We've got kind of a layer, a bit of building that comes down there, a bit of rock work there. Okay, so again, it's like I said, the kind of purpose of this is to really just better understand that layout. And I think what we're seeing here is we've got some light patches on that rock. So it's almost like the light is kind of hitting it and expanding the way it's viewed. And it's also obscured, so. Okay, so that's my kind of rough environment line work, and actually it feels kind of okay at the moment. I'm not too concerned about any of the compositional elements of it. I think it all more or less falls in line. The reason I'm marking these lines out a little bit stronger, and I will go in and clean these up as well, is I just want to be absolutely sure when I do this that we're getting the cleanest possible lines. So I'm just going to go in now and just double check. So in place, I'm going to delete my baseline there. I'm going to clean up this line a little bit. So just taking out anything at this stage that is just a little bit unnecessary or is going to confuse me later on. So one of the things you'll find when you're doing long master studies, and by long I mean 10 hours. I mean this image I'm going to spend probably 2.5 hours on, maybe 2.5 hours, and we'll do some speed up stuff as well, so you don't have to watch it for the full 2 hours. But awesome. All right. So next thing I'm going to do, I wouldn't normally do this. Normally I'd go straight into values, but I think in this instance, just because they're so important, I'm just going to roughly block in the position of the characters. I've done these on a separate layer, just for cleanliness more than anything. So we've got one character there. Okay. Not too bad. All right, so that's kind of the rough layout completed. I can just kind of clean that up a little bit. There we go. So what I'm going to do now, I'm actually going to create another layer. I'm going right back to the background color here. And what I'm going to do with this new layer is start to paint in the rough values, so just an approximation of the values. I'm really not going to get too into this, it's about staying kind of loose with it. So first off I'm going to do is I'm going to take what I think the lightest value is approximately and kind of paint that in, and I'm just going to do that as a complete wash all over. Now in this image there is nothing that is even remotely close to white. Okay, there is no white in here at all, even though it looks like you've got a high value area. There's definitely nothing here that's even close to white. You've got one area here that's starting to edge a little bit higher, but yeah, I wouldn't say it's anything too. So what I'm going to do now, because I want to be able to get kind of some real traction with this as much as possible, is I am going to sort of halt this for a minute. I'm going to stop talking, shut up, and I'm going to focus on building this up as much as possible. So what we'll do is we're going to I'll set this to be like a time lapse almost. Let's bring that down because it's not that bright. Okay. So I'll spend maybe an hour on this now, building all these colours in, getting them as sensible as possible, and then we'll come back and we'll start to do some narration about applying colour over the top of this and what kind of colours can we start to see. Okay, so we've got our value study done now, which is going to effectively be the base painting for what will become the completed master's study. So the next step, now that we've got the light and composition kind of nailed and we've broken down those complexities, is to look at creating the palette that we would use to complete the master's study.